welcome to my show. I'm back with some of my favorite films. From the days when aliens wore little green shorts, vampires wore capes and badly fitted dentures, and superheroes wore matching tights and boots. Tonight is a really animated episode. We'll be looking at some of the earliest representations of Superman, when the Man of Steel was just a drawing, although they were made around 70 years ago. These films are breathtakingly beautiful, even by today's standards. They're also interesting as propaganda films, for of course America was at war at the time. Let's fly back to 1941, to the first ever Superman short, Superman and the Mad Scientist.
And so it begins. Actual Superman comics had started back in 1938, which was just 3 years before this movie was made. They were popular then, and they've been popular ever since, especially with people who get confused between a bird and a plane, and a man from another world flying overhead. Now, after this very stirring musical motif, which we can guarantee you'll be heartily sick of by the end of the episode, it's time to set up the Superman origin story. This may be different in some aspects to that which you're used to. Let's see.
In the endless reaches of the universe, there once existed a planet known as Krypton, a planet that burned like a green star in the distant heavens. Their civilization was far advanced and had brought forth a race of supermen.
You'll notice all the flashing lights. That's not a good sign.
But there came a day when giant quakes threatened to destroy Krypton forever. One of the planet's leading scientists, sensing the approach of doom, placed his infant son in a small rocket ship and sent it hurtling in the direction of the Earth just as Krypton exploded.
Yeah, this is what will eventually happen on Earth if everyone leaves their mobile phone
The rocket
charged.
ship sped through star-studded space, landing safely on Earth with its precious burden, Krypton's sole survivor. A passing motorist found the uninjured child and took it to an orphanage.
An orphanage, but no Smallville, no Lex Luthor, no Mom and Pop Kent either. They all came later.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
That's faster than the speed of sound, kids,
People believe tall buildings at a single bound.
without pulling a hamstring.
Is now the Man of Steel, Superman. To best be in a position to use his amazing powers in a never-ending battle for truth and justice, Superman has assumed the disguise of Clark Kent.
Kent was actually modeled on a silent movie star comedian Harold Lloyd. Somewhere in a great metropolis. That looks exactly like New York, but it's called Metropolis.
Kent, I want to see you. Just received another threatening note.
Okay, Mr. White.
Lois, another note from the mad scientist.
Coming in, Chief.
Yeah, he's totally in denial about climate change and the ozone layer.
He plans to strike tonight. Beware, you fools. My electrophanesia ray strikes tonight at 12. Total destruction will come to those who laughed at me and failed to heed my warnings. Beware, I strike at midnight.
Right down to the precise time.
Didn't I tell you the animation is gorgeous? Even the Mad Scientist's handwriting is beautiful. He probably got picked on at school for it, and this is the poor dear's way of overcompensating. Most evil villain types are like that. But anyway, isn't it time to meet this Mad Scientist?
So, this is our mad scientist, dressed like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, or maybe it's the other way around. Yes, you can tell he's a mad scientist because he has an unconventional haircut and wears a Nehru collar jacket. Good guys wore collar and ties back in 1941. Plus, his best friend is a buzzard of some kind, which is a character trait you'd more likely to ascribe to a heroic character than a villain these days. Now, that Lois, she always did have a way of flying straight into trouble. Yeah, the bird sidekick is interesting. Usually it's pirates who have birds, not mad scientists. Reminds me, what do you call a robot pirate? That's right, R2-D2. Oh, forget it.
So, you want a story? I'll give you the greatest story of destruction the world has ever known.
Now, the mad scientist was voiced by a guy named Jack Mercer, who was also the voice of, you guessed it, Popeye the Sailor Man. Set the controls on the destructor ray for maximum impact, then make a nice cup of tea. The mad scientist's tower, located conveniently and conspicuously high above Metropolis, where everyone can see it. Obviously, nobody ever told this guy that it doesn't do to burn your bridges.
How is that for a story, Miss Lane?
This looks like a job for Superman.
Now watch carefully, because this really is a slice of cinema history. It's the first time ever that mild-mannered Clark Kent whips into a closet and throws off his suit and tie, so confining, for a really comfortable outfit of cape, a pair of briefs, and some spandex tights. Supposing someone was to go in that closet later and found a pile of Clark Kent's clothes, boxer shorts initialed CK, that'd be bound to create some gossip around the water cooler now, wouldn't it? Meanwhile, back at the lab, the mad scientist is searching the 1941 equivalent of Google Earth, looking for his next target. And it seems he's found it. Marvelous-looking machine, this. Now that is the Daily Planet building. Check it out if you don't believe us. Anyway, it's a shock for the guys on the ground floor at the Planet. After all, they were just trying to put back in the filing cabinets what they've been taking out all these years. Put back into filing cabinets what they've been taking out all these years. Oh, forget it. Perhaps worth pointing out, this film was made before they'd worked out how to weaponize atomic power, and well before laser technology. Now, the man in blue tights is able to succeed in saving the newspaper building and, in effect, the entire newspaper industry of Metropolis, until they get a load of the internet, that is. Pushing back on a laser beam, eh? Well, as Bones McCoy of Star Trek would later say, it's against the laws of physics, Jim. A scientific impossibility. Yep. Better turn the laser power up to 5,000 on the thingometer. It's the man in blue tights. Now, this is not only quintessential Superman, it's quintessentially apple pie American at the same time. Why? The firmly held belief that no enemy is a match, no obstacle too great for a punch in the face. Now, take that, and that, and that, and that, you lousy laser beam, you. But perhaps I'm making a broad, sweeping generalization about this being gung-ho American. This could have been a very kryptonite attitude as well, until their planet blew up, that is. But I digress. Amazing, almost as great an honor as an Igor Award. And as Superman rides the giant, erupting crab, he comes to Lois Lane's rescue once again. My hero. Now, keep your eye on the birdie here. He or she, I guess we'll never know, is kind of the mad scientist's evil assistant. But does that mean the buzzard will have to be caged for its part in the boss's heinous crimes? No. Seems not, because he was out there fast in the other direction. Go, strange buzzard sidekick bird, fly to freedom. The mad scientist, of course, isn't going to be so lucky. Apparently, Superman is not only the arresting officer, but judge, jury, and jailer as well. Not only that, but he also writes the news reports under an alias. Talk about conspiracy theory material.
Congratulations, Lois. That was a great scoop.
Yes, Chief, thanks to Superman.
Ah, Clark Kent, always the gentleman. In any case, after Superman and the Mad Scientist, there was another film, Superman and the Mechanical Monsters. The animation went up a notch, as did the villain, and even Lois Lane got a makeover. She went from plain Jane to frame-by-frame Fox.
And yet mechanical at the same time. Mechanical monsters, perhaps? Very influential, this little animated short. For one example, how about as recently as the mechanical monsters in the 2004 feature film Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow? Clearly the mastermind evil villain, and he looks like a real wax mustache twirler. 9 out of 17 of the Superman shorts were produced by the Fleischer Studios, an outfit run by the brothers Max and Dave, as well as Superman. They produced Popeye and Betty Boop pictures. But brothers Max and Dave fought so much that halfway through producing the Superman series, the company was dissolved and taken over by Famous Studios, a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. All that loot. Naturally, all of Metropolis' law enforcement community is high on alert when the House of Jewels opens downtown. Reminds me of the story about Hollywood legend Mae West. An admirer said to her, "Goodness, Miss West, what beautiful jewelry." To which she replied, "Goodness had nothing to do with it." Ka-ching. Anywho, of course, the Daily Planet send their most tenacious reporters along to cover the opening. That'd be Clark Kent, wouldn't it? You know what that means.
Lois, what are you doing here?
Oh, just getting the woman's angle on this story.
Well, she just had to be there.
The mechanical monster! Look out!
Like you'd know one if you saw one. Landing right next to the Nash. And that's it. Impervious to your bullets. The mechanical monster just storming his way into the jewelry shop. Cops relentlessly emptying their Tommy guns into his gut. To no avail. Wait, what is this guy? Is he number 13 or number 5? I can't get it. He's like he's wearing two different jerseys. Open the drawer and start filling the gullet.
Now you wait here. I'll phone this in.
Are you kidding, Buster? Lois never just waits around. Turn your back for 2 seconds and see? She's out of there. That Lois, faster than a man that's faster than a speeding locomotive.
Yes, I'll give you the details.
How convenient. The phone booth is right there.
All right, Lois. Lois! This is a job for Superman.
Yes, well, I should think so too. Be ashamed to waste that perfectly good phone booth without a costume change. Still, wouldn't you just love to know what he does with his hat and pants after he gets changed? Answers on a postcard to Max, please. Anyway, spectacular. This is the Superman we've come to know and have slightly conflicting emotions about. Wait, from brown to blue to now evil-possessed voodoo eyes? Oh, there she is, Lois. She's so transparent.
I regret to say that the mechanical monster eats Lois Lane and sends Superman's body back to Krypton. But of course he doesn't. In fact, Superman pulverizes the mechanical monster and rescues Lois Lane. Of course.
I know. The storylines are predictable. But the scenarios, from underground bird people to Nazis in the jungle, I mean, that's outrageous. You'll find out what I mean after these messages.
Welcome back, Midnight Movie Lovers. As you'll recall, we've been looking at some of the early on-screen Superman. The man in blue tights found himself in some pretty unusual scenarios. Scenarios such as the next one. In Jungle Drums, the high priest of an African tribe turns out to be a Nazi in disguise, transmitting coordinates to German submarines. Even Adolf Hitler gets a cameo in this one. Check it out, the 15th of 17 Superman shorts.
Faster than a streak of lightning.
That used to be faster than a speeding bullet, which travels at the speed of sound. Lightning, however, travels at the speed of light, so he's obviously had a software upgrade.
Mightier than a roaring hurricane.
Not sure how that compares with leaping tall buildings in a single bound.
The Man of Steel. Superman. Possessing remarkable physical strength, Superman fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice. Disguised as a mild-mannered newspaper reporter, Clark Kent.
Steven Spielberg eat your heart out.
I shall be glad when I'm finished with my work here. Herr Kapitän, the submarine fleet commander is impatient for news of the American convoy.
Yep, underneath the tribal leader ceremonial outfit is the uniform and stereotype accent of an evil Nazi. Hey, is there any other kind? Anti-aircraft guns mounted at the top of pagan idols, shooting into the night sky. All standard Axis powers trickery, I suppose. Wildly imaginative anyway, and awesome animation. The machine gun fire. And oh no, the plane has been shot down. Just wait till you see it's on the passenger list. Looks like the tribespeoples are curious too.
Lieutenant Fleming.
Miss Lane.
Yes?
Lois Lane, who else? Despite seeing the horribly charred and disfigured remains of the pilot and being captured by natives with savage intent, Lois remembers her spycraft well. You see? She stashes the secret papers under a rock. And don't even ask what a reporter from New York is doing flying around the Gulf of Guinea or whatever.
10 minutes to remember what you did with those papers, or I will be forced to brighten your memory with fire.
So what?
Das ist genug. I warned you, Fräulein. Unless you talk, I will make no effort to interfere with these natives.
Oh, cut the comic opera stuff.
Very well, Ngala.
One thing can be said for the Fleischer brothers. They made animation that has probably yet to be paralleled.
Even now, if you tell me the location of the papers, I can...
The papers, we are back to the papers.
I have to look! Your Yankee brandy was in vain! Hurry! Contact
I
submarine!
wonder how many times a day he's got to change that outfit. Mein Gott, submarines are decked out with swastikas. You don't even get that on the History Channel these days. Well, so they tell me. Poor Lois, a tribal face with a bone through its nose. There are some uncomfortable racial undertones in this utterly bizarre Natives with Nazis hybrid from 1943.
Well, here I am again to spoil the story. Lois manages to escape the fire, disguise herself as a Nazi, find the transmitter, and all without so much as ruffling her hair. You have to hand it to Lois. She's always had a lot of what they used to call moxie.
Come in, base 3X. Come in,
Then what, Allison? Raus mit euch!
Yeah, or jackboots. But wouldn't you know it? Here comes Superman. Take that, you Nazi Schweinhound. Und that? Wait a minute, Superman wouldn't have had a German accent. Anyway, here comes the cavalry, which in this case is actually the U.S. Air Force. The U-boats line up their target, hardly suspecting that because of a radio transmission sent by a dame in 6-inch heels, they themselves are sitting ducks. And now for an unexpected touch of Inglorious Bastards.
The War Department goes on to say that during this action an entire...
Und er, unbelievably he is, Adolf Hitler, the Führer himself, in a Superman film. Utterly bizarre.
And then they sing Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Is that enough Allied propaganda for you? No? Not content with handing the Fuhrer his lunch, Superman also makes time to give Emperor Tojo one in the eye.
And that was the world population back in 1940. Must have been a lot more roomy than it is today. Hold the front page for the remedial readers out there. So yes, the film is Japateurs, which is supposed to be a clever mix of the words Japanese and saboteurs, I suppose. Well, it was World War II. This was actually the first of 2 Superman animated films to depict the man from Kryptonite duking it out against Imperial Japan. The other was called 11th Hour and had Superman disrupting efforts at a Japanese warship building yard in Yokohama.
World War II Superman movies. Wonderful historical documents in their own right. But if I'm really honest with myself, I have to say I prefer the surreal, almost hallucinatory adventures of Superman. Take this installment of Superman Underground, which has a whole subterranean Aztec bird people feel to it.
An editor. He is the guy at a newspaper who makes all the important decisions.
My father discovered what are now known as the Henderson Caverns. More than 40 years ago, he mysteriously disappeared while exploring them further.
They didn't come back alive, you say? Well, then we must join in the fun.
Suggesting that still greater wonders and mysteries lay beyond in this vast underground world. Now, if your paper will help finance the expedition, I will take Miss Lane and Mr. Kent with me and guarantee the Daily Planet exclusive rights to the story.
Are you insane?
I'd love to go.
Well, let me see. All right, it's a deal. Thanks, Mr. White. We can leave immediately.
Another phenomenal example of Fleischer Brothers animation. And now, on to the scene. Now, a little later into our story, and it may not surprise viewers to know that Henderson and Lois aren't doing so well. Lois! In fact, they've been captured by an angry bird. Man. Birdman. Avengers from Hell. And Superman, Clark Kent, behind a carrot. Again, back to this incredible, strange, dancing native theme, now with boiling hot lava. Oh no. Well, that's about as defeatist as you ever hear Lois Lane get. She believes in the power of positive thinking.
This is a job for Superman.
Changing behind a carrot for the first time. Where do those clothes go? When really angry birdmen attack, more than feathers get ruffled. Hey, it's not too often you see the Man of Steel get cold-cocked. But he's back on his stocking feet in no time. As the ritualistic dance continues, these birds of hell continue to swarm over Superman. Take that. And there he is. The Man of Steel could be down for the count, but... No! Of course not. He takes all 5 of them out, swoops down, and saves the day once again. As the feathered flock from Hades, in hot pursuit of Superman, Lois, and Mr. Henderson, Superman spied on the mountainside, of course, a hand grenade, which he throws and detonates the cave entrance. The only possible outlet for these crazed birds. Once again, peace and tranquility conquers all. Back to the photographs, of course, to the editor's desk.
Great story, Lois. But no one would ever believe it.
That's what a real editor actually does. Finally, in this feast of Supermania, a clip from Superman and the Magnetic Telescope. In modern-day Superman, which is made of the magnetism between Clark Kent and Lois Lane, Superman, who cut quite the figure with his underpants, pulled over his tights. In this series of animated films, which, remember, were the first on-screen adventures of the Man of Steel, there's only a hint of that UST. Now, come on, Lois, figure it out. People don't look that different with a pair of glasses. Then again, maybe she could never take her eyes off Superman's Y fronts. We may never ever know.
Why, friends? Cold cocked. Ooh, Igor, I'm starting to feel some UST for you right now. But Superman takes my cake. See you next week, villains. Good night.